Harry Potter books to my son.
Mm.
I'm reading the Harry Potter books to my son, and as a result, I'm using all sorts of British-ish accents. Hagrid, hey, Harry, how you doing, Harry? And there's Ron, I can't believe you're going to do that, Harry. And Hermione says, oh, Harry, my cat, Crookshanks, is going to eat your rat scabbers, Ron. Harry Potter.
Harry.
But that's not what we're doing right now. You know what we're doing right now?
It looks like Kiki is directing an episode of This Week in Science.
That's right. This Week in Science, episode 655, roll 1, scene 1, take 1. This is TWIS. This Week in Science, episode number 655, recorded on Wednesday, January 24th, 2017. Science monkeys! I'm Dr. Kiki, and tonight on the show, we are going to fill your head with baby monkeys, supplements, and shrinking birds. But first...
Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. There's a way of looking at the world in which you can ignore the details. A vision of everything based on how you assume it to be. Just read the headlines. You'll get the drift. Think something you know nothing about works a certain way. That's exactly how it works. The label on the bottle claims to do this or that. Good enough reason to end all further inquiry. This is a brand new opportunity to know what the whole wide world is doing without even giving it a first look. And while this way of existing in a world bereft of thought is exactly how I imagine most of the people on the earth are going about things, I haven't really looked into it because I've been far too busy getting excited to hear what's next on This Week in Science. Coming up next.
This is why I had a mouse, because this laptop isn't working, and now that mouse is downstairs.
I think maybe Kiki assumed I was going to have a much longer disclaimer at the beginning of the show. It's like, oh, here we go.
I've got the kind of mind I can't get enough. I want to learn everything. I want to fill it all up with new discoveries that happen every day of the week. There's only one place to go to find the knowledge I seek. I want to know what's happening. What's happening? What's happening this week in science? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening this week in science?
Good science to Kiki and Blair.
And a good science to you too, Justin, Blair, and everyone out there. Welcome to another episode of This Week in Science. We are back yet again to talk about all the science stories that are fit to fill this show with. Last week, we had a wonderful show at Cal Academy of Sciences with SF Sketchfest. So much fun. Don't you guys agree?
Oh, yeah. That was great.
I got to have a lifelong dream come true. and you'll find out more when the show is available online. I mean, I think it's available on YouTube at this point in time, that part of the show, but I had fun. I don't know if Justin did or not.
I too had fun.
I enjoyed it.
I'm glad. I'm very glad.
It was very nice to finally have a lot of my San Francisco native friends get to see the silliness that is that TWIS thing I'm always talking about. So that was really fun as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. So everyone, I know we tried to broadcast live. We had some internet failings, and so there are the 3 or 4 videos up on our YouTube channel at this point. I have a beautiful, clean audio recording of the show, so that at least will be out in the podcast soon. You know, I wish there's more we could have done for the quality of the live broadcast, but you know what? We do what we can, and we move forward. So right now, we're gonna move forward into tonight's show. I have news about brains, contact lenses, and baby monkeys. Baby monkeys. What do you have for us, Justin?
I have Ingester Beware, Arctic Archaeology, and an everyday item that may be toxic to your health.
Yeah, I don't like toxic things. All right. And Blair. What's in the animal corner?
I have the aforementioned shrinking birds, and I also have a fun story about buzzing bees.
Buzzing bees. We do like the bees here, especially when I hope it's a good story about how we're helping them.
It's fun. It's just a fun story.
I hope so. I want to save all the bees. I love the bees.
The shrinking bird story, not a fun story. The bee story, very fun.
All right. Well, you got to balance it out there a little bit. We have
Yeah,
the fun, the reality, all of it mixed into
Yeah.
the thing that is TWIS.
Yeah, but it's all science, so we got to bring it all to you.
It's true. It's
Yeah.
true. But as we jump into the show, I want to remind everyone that you can subscribe to the TWIS podcast on iTunes, the Apple podcast portal, the Google Play podcast portal, Stitcher, Spreaker, and TuneIn. You can also find us on YouTube and Facebook. Just look for This Week in Science. You can also visit twis.org for our show notes and links to the podcast episodes. But now it's time to get into the science. I do love the science. You guys ready for the fun? The fun that is the world of baby monkeys?
Yes.
So, Blair, tell me, have you worked with the primates?
Yes, I have.
Have you ever worked with the rhesus macaques?
I have not worked with rhesus macaques. I worked with lion-tailed macaques. And they were interesting creatures.
All right. Well, macaca. These macaques are actually not rhesus macaques. I'm sorry, I misspoke. Long-tailed macaques.
Ah.
Long-tailed macaques.
How many macaques are there?
There's a lot of macaques.
Substantial number.
Yeah.
Several species of macaques. These macaques are primate species. And as primate species, they're closely-ish related to humans. We branched off at some point, and we've diverged in the years that have intervened between that point. But we're kind of cousins on the evolutionary family tree. Well, researchers in China are the first to report successful cloning of these long-tailed macaques. 2 little babies named Zhongzhong and Huahua, which I know I'm probably not pronouncing correctly. There's the nuances that my Americanized ear cannot bring forward. But these little monkeys are, they are active, healthy, happy baby monkeys who are the only 2 of somewhere near 120, 130 odd attempts at creating these clones. They came from one surrogate, and they were the only surrogate to successfully create clones when 60 surrogate mothers were implanted with clone embryos. They were born 8 and 6 weeks ago. And they're the first primates to be cloned from a non-embryonic cell. So what did they do? They used the same procedure that was used to create Dolly. So somatic cell nuclear transfer, which means they took the nucleus out of an egg taken from an adult female. And then they took the nucleus from a skin cell of another individual and put it into that egg. and allowed it to start growing. And they used particular factors after that point to induce it to work successfully. And they've been working on this for a really long time. I mean, I don't remember exactly what year Dolly was reported, but Dolly is like dead, and there are generations of sheep that have come after her. There's sheep geriatric studies that are ongoing as a result of the cloning of sheep like Dolly.
Dolly was 20 years ago. 21 years ago, 1996.
Yeah, long time ago.
Yeah.
It is a long, long time ago. So these clones are not exact copies of each other. They're similar to each other, but they are not exactly 100% identical to each other, because you've got the mitochondrial DNA from the donor egg that the nucleus goes into. So although they are very similar genetically, they are not exact clones of one another, but very, very close. They're kind of clones. Not exact clones, but kind of clones. But the thing that's very interesting about this is that now that this has happened in a primate species, this opens the door to the technical, achieving the technical aspects of further primate cloning. And these researchers in China are suggesting that their work will eventually lead to a line of monkeys, of primates, that can be used in laboratory research. And in China, there are not the same kinds of ethical restrictions on animal research and primate research that we have in the United States here. And here in the United States and in other countries as well, there's less primate research going on than there was in the past. So it's a question as to exactly how much of a need there is, how much of a market there is for cloned monkeys, cloned macaques, and whether there really is a market for this technology as they are discussing it and saying they want it to be used. The researchers say the reason we broke this barrier is to produce animal models that are useful for medicine, for human health. There is no intention to apply this method to humans.
Yeah, I was going to say the best application of cloning that I can see, besides just like, because we can, is to reduce a variable in medical testing. Because every time you have a different genome could react to something differently or be predisposed to something different that can confound your study. So if you have a study sample that is all genetically identical, that knocks out a whole host of potential problematic variables. So that totally makes sense. Definitely makes sense when making mice, lab rats and lab mice. Makes a lot of sense, especially because the reduced lifespan of cloned animals wouldn't really matter, because lab rats and lab mice are often euthanized after a lab trial anyway. So you don't have to worry so much about that. So I'm totally on board with it for that. I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to feel really itchy about the fact that it's monkeys, and monkeys are cute, and monkeys are close to humans, and it's a step too far.
Why would they make them itchy?
Because people see it as adjacent to human cloning.
Yeah.
And I think that is definitely where some people will get uneasy. But I think good work, folks. I'm excited. Better medical testing. Here we come.
Yeah, I think it is a very exciting advancement. And even to understand the barriers that have held back primate cloning and even human cloning moving forward, I mean, it's not to say we will do human cloning in the future, but understanding how it works and how to do it successfully will also answer many questions related to reproduction and development in the early embryos, and could potentially lead to future treatments for infertility.
And on a sci-fi standpoint, this might be how I get to live forever, because you can just clone me a new body, download my consciousness, I'm good to go.
Well, I don't know. I think it may be worth starting over too, right?
Starting over? Oh, yeah.
Download the framework for your consciousness.
I don't want to relive all my mistakes.
You a fresh start. don't force a brain onto somebody.
I'm really
That
proud of what
that
I've
has some
what I've
ethical
accrued.
ramifications. Forcing that other you to have these thoughts.
No, it's just me. It's just a new shell. That's all I'm saying. I just want a new
No,
shell.
it's going to go into a brain, a functioning brain. You want to take over another human's brain.
No, sorry. Kiki, go on.
No mad scientist stuff here. But I think this is something that we do need to keep an eye on. I think that American restrictions are going to hold us back in research fields related to this. Although there are some things that we're doing now related to genetic editing that the Chinese started many years ago, and that we are doing now, that our restrictions have become more lax and enabling certain research. There was a report this last week that China has outpaced the United States in scientific publications for the first time ever. Now, that doesn't mean quantity is better than quality, and there are a lot of studies that where Chinese scientists are replicating and reproducing studies that were previously published in Western journals. And so there's a kind of like, yay, they're reproducing things. So if things were wrong, now at least Chinese researchers are double checking. But this is something that politically we've been warned against for years. With the reduction in scientific funding for the NIH, for the NSF, for NASA, for all of the governmental bodies that produce science and fund science across the United States, that if we do not prioritize science, then science will begin to fade in the United States. And yeah, China's a much bigger country than the United States is. And so, yeah, quantity will be bigger than the United States once they really get going. But, China is on pace to not be so much of a third world nation for much longer. And, United States, we need to be looking at the things that China is doing. So if we want to be competitive in the STEM fields, we want to keep looking at them. So cloning, maybe it's not something that we want to do specifically here, or that is, maybe it is fine. But these are things that we need to look at, and we need to have these conversations, and we need to move forward. And to brains. Let's move on to brains. My next story is all about brains. So let's talk about the evolving brain, a new study that was published this week in Science Advances from the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology. Researchers were looking at our brains, and they said old Homo sapien or Homo erectus brains and Neanderthal brains were not globular like they are now. I mean, I really love this study for the fact that the researchers were looking at globularity of the human brain, the brain globules. But really, what they found is that the human brain, became globular, more rounded over evolutionary time. And with these changes, this is what allowed the neurological changes to take place that led to cognitive changes and behavioral changes that give us who and what we are today. So Simon Neubauer told Inverse that the brain is an organ that's really important for what makes us human. We would not be doing anything without the brain. Our findings add to the accumulating archaeological and paleoanthropological evidence demonstrating that Homo sapiens is an evolving species with deep African roots and long-lasting gradual changes in behavioral modernity, brain organization, and potentially brain function. So they looked at various brains going back until about 300,000 years ago, and they took scans of the interior of the brains. And in the past, we've looked at brain size. And we're like, okay, well, the brain's gotten bigger. But especially in Homo sapiens over the last 300,000 years, Homo sapiens have slowly evolved. And the globular features they found by looking at fossil Homo sapien brains, Homo sapien skulls, the features that are modern, the globular aspect, the roundedness of the human brain, emerged only about 40,000 years ago.
What?
And yeah. So the modern shape. So they're looking at the specificity of the shape as opposed to the size. So the modern brain size was 300,000 years ago, same size, but the shape that is potentially what is allowing the connectivity in the way that we are currently connected. That's what they're really diving into here. And so an interesting thing that comes from this is that they analyzed these endocranial, they're the inside of the skull, shape variations, and found that present-day human shapes overlapped with specimens from the Upper Paleolithic era. And so the brains became rounded. So I say 40,000, but they became rounded somewhere between 100,000 to 35,000 years ago. And this is, again, much later than the size evolution. And it's something when you go to any biology class, as you start learning about evolution and biology, there's this statement that comes up again and again. Ontogeny recapitulates phylogeny. And ontogeny is the actual development of an organism during its life. Phylogeny is the evolutionary history of the organism. So, we've got the story of humans being in utero and having gill slits, and then the gill slits close, and we go on to have our lung-based respiratory system that uses air that we breathe through our mouth and our trachea and all those things, as opposed to through gills like fish, which is a remnant of our phylogeny. So they've been looking at present day humans, and they say that brain globularity, I really like saying this,
It's a great word.
Globularity emerges developmentally during a few months right around the time of birth. And so as the baby is developing, it's right around the 7, 8, 9 months late in the development of the baby as it's being born, 9, 10 months, that's when the globularity starts. So maybe the globularity really is a later addition and something very important for neural wiring and cognitive development.
That timeline is hanky as can be, though. I don't know that I...
Yeah.
It's like when you move into a new apartment, right? You move into a new apartment and you have stuff in boxes everywhere. It's all the same stuff, but when you move in, it feels very neat. You feel at home. Everything has a place. It all works. But before then you walk in, it looks like a horrible mess. It's just like that. The raw material was there. It just needed to be organized.
I don't know what you're talking about at all. Look.
Are you still living out of boxes, Justin?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
But my point is, though, that the timeline of even going back 100,000 years, and they're saying that it sort of sprung up then.
Yeah,
that it's everywhere at once, because humans were already pretty far flung at 100,000 years ago.
Yeah, so they looked at 20 different Homo sapien fossils, and they divided them into 3 groups. They had an old group from North and East Africa, and these were this is right after the split with Neanderthals. Another group was East Africa and Eastern Mediterranean.
The split with Neanderthals.
And that's about
that's more than 130
to 100,000 a year.
No, that's much further back. That's all wrong. No, I'm sorry. Wait, Neanderthals have been in Europe for like 400,000 years.
Yes,
like these numbers are ridiculously off.
But when we actually split from humans,
I don't get it.
Is a different question. I mean, split from Neanderthals.
Oh, when we split from humans, you said Neanderthals.
When we split from Neanderthals, very far
was more than 100,000 years ago. Had to be.
Yes.
Doesn't make
Yeah,
sense.
so they went back 300,000 years, but they had different groups.
Further. Okay.
They went back 300,000 years. That's the old group.
Okay. Somehow I
It was
missed
like
it. So the old group
300,000. Yeah. And then they had
okay.
fossils that represented this older time period, 100,000 years ago, all the way up to about 35,000 years ago, or actually 10,000 years ago, much more recent.
Okay.
Yes. And looking at this, they just found that these that the craniofacial morphology appeared modern, the size of the brain looked modern, but it was this globularity, that how the brain sits inside the skull case, that they realized there was a change. Probably it's really affecting Homo sapiens around 40,000 years ago, but maybe getting its start sometime around 100,000 years ago. And it was that particular change that led to modern human capabilities.
Even 40,000 sounds like an odd number because that's post out of Africa. So then is it all the way through Africa and through 8 parts of Asia if we're talking 40,000 years ago? Is it like everywhere at once? This change was already in development? That seems too recent for these changes to take place. On the one hand. On the other hand,
it's just the brain fossils, the fossils they looked at. You know, they had 20 fossils. So
where?
we're not from I didn't do this study.
No,
Justin's
I know,
really
sorry,
giving you the
but,
third.
No, I get it.
like,
Yeah,
this is like
your,
totally bugging me now. I'm gonna have to read this.
Kiki's defending her thesis, even though she didn't know.
I do not believe they looked
do
at
that
yeah, I do not believe they looked at brains from Asia, but I'm not sure. All I have seen in the fossil list is North and East Africa, and the Eastern Mediterranean.
Okay. And these are also all groups that could have interbred with Neanderthal or the flow back for extended. So then and that correlates to which modern human. Like, I have issues with this story. When you talk about humans,
you know what?
Say something happened 40,000 years ago when we're spread out all over the planet. It's hard to believe. Period. End. Like, convergent evolution and human brains everywhere at once? Come on.
Okay, so you're saying that the change must have started, that whatever led to that globularity must have started much earlier.
Much earlier. Much earlier. And I mean, even the 130,000 mark is a little is raising some skepticality cackles there.
Interesting. All right.
Although unless, and here's the one big thing I'll say with the unless on this. Unless that internal morphology can be modified by a human behavior like language sprouts up, which is creating morphologies on the brain, or globular shaping on the brain. And then because if there's a widespread technology, like, this is one of those weird things, like people who play violin have a little node towards the back of their brain that people who don't play the violin might be much less likely to have. And if that could be expressed within the skull casing and visible there, then I get it. People who play violins, brains, casings should all look slightly different. And if language or some type of art or communication or some other activity that humans were engaging in became widespread and spread like wildfire, and then we were all doing this new thing with our brains, and that could be trapped within that morphology of the brain casing, then maybe I would get it. But then it's the brain is already doing that evolution, and it's not because of the globulism. It's leading to globulism.
Yeah. So, so I get what you're saying there, and and I don't know. I mean, it's either something that the behavior fed back to change the brain, and that there was something inherent to the way that the human brain works that allowed globularization to take place among all examples of Homo sapiens at that time, or whether it was something different. But they go on to say the human revolution, when humans started to have behavioral modernity, just marks the point in time when gradual changes reach full modern behavior, and morphology does not represent a rapid evolutionary event related to only one important genetic change. that leads to a rapid emergence of modern human brain morphology and behavioral modernity. So in essence, they're saying that their data suggests that this was not a really quick change, that this was something that gradually took place and underlaid over many tens of thousands of years the emergence of modern human behavior. But anyway,
me still skeptical.
the link will be in the show notes and you can read it. Yeah. All right. This is This Week in Science. And Justin, what did you bring?
Oh, I got a story here right over. Where did I put it? Ah, yes. Global warming, climate change, climatea, whatever you choose to call it. It's happening now. Yes, it's going to have some negative consequences. It may lead to crop failures, wildlife devastation, wildfires, sea level rise that will displace millions of people and could lead to wars over dwindling resources. But it does have a silver lining in the form of melting ice, which can be awful to live near. But if you died a long time ago and we're hoping that someday your remains, or at least your stuff, would be rediscovered now. So it's great. The melting of glacial ice patches in Scandinavia, the Alps, North America reveal ancient archaeological records of past human activity and then promptly destroy them. So what do we need? We need glacial archaeologists, specialists who go out there, find, rescue, and identify these artifacts. In Norway, which is best known for its award-winning fjords, though the story is about a mountain area, not a fjord area, but a mountain area of upland, which also includes Norway's highest mountains, an international team of researchers have conducted a systematic survey at the edges of the contracting ice, recovering artifacts like wood, textiles, hides that would otherwise be probably lost pretty quickly if they didn't rush out there and grab it. To date, they found more than 2,000 artifacts. Some of the finds date as far back as 4,000 BC, over 6,000 years ago. Iron Age, Bronze Age clothing items, remains from skis, pack horses. Statistical analysis of radiocarbon dates on these finds were done, and patterns began to emerge. Patterns showing that they do not spread out evenly over time. Some periods have many finds, while other periods of time have none. So what was the reason for this populating and depopulating and populating and depopulating these alpine areas? Well, what they've come up with, this is Dr. James H. Barrett, environmental archaeologist at McDonald Institute for Archaeological Research, University of Cambridge, senior author of the paper. He says, one such pattern which really surprised us was the possible increase in activity in the period known as the Late Antique Little Ice Age. That's 536 to 660 AD. This is a time of cooling or harvests that may have failed. So you got your regular farming rotations and everything, but you got this 100-year cold snap.
And people died.
Yeah. Well, but not so much. It's not so much that the people died. It's that they couldn't farm.
Yeah.
So they headed to the hills in search of prey. They went from farming back to hunter-gathering. And it wasn't all of them, but it was very likely that there was groups of hunters that sort of migrated out there and became mountain hunters, going after mostly reindeer. And so they would go out there and hunt, and then they would bring furs and antlers and stuff down to create trading routes through these hills. And this is where they were leaving all this stuff that we're just now finding. And then, so those numbers kind of with the climate. They see particular high numbers of finds dating the 8th to 10th century, reflecting perhaps increased population and mobility in the area. Lots of trade before and during the Viking Age, and when outward expansion was also characteristic. I like that outward expansion was became characteristic of Scandinavia. Yeah, Vikings were out pillaging. And then it sort of the finds start to drop off. And part of why they think is because the hunting techniques really became pretty advanced. They started doing, instead of shooting that reindeer with a bow, they started doing massed harvesting techniques. They did these funnel-shaped and pitfall trapping systems. And so this intensive hunting probably reduced the number of wild reindeer and therefore less reason to wander around in the Alps looking for them.
Right. Trap them. Bring them in. Get them in there. I have to say, though, being an archaeologist on the coast of Norway looks miserable.
Are you kidding me?
It's cold and wet. I'm digging in the rocks, but it's
all of these guys,
cold.
all these guys in this picture you're showing there, standing on a rock surrounded by ice. You know, I keep thinking to myself, I just clicked a box for tropical archaeology. I could be on a sandy beach somewhere right now.
Well, I mean,
this would be easier somehow.
Yeah, but I have to imagine also, I mean, tropical archaeology is going to be a little bit more difficult because you have more vegetation and more activity in the soil, so things will break down and the signs of things disappear more quickly. I mean, you've got erosion.
Mosquitoes. Oh, the mosquitoes.
and the mosquitoes. Yeah.
And the toughest one actually of all, which is I think there's going to be an increasingly amazing field as our technology gets better, is underwater archaeology. As we know, many of the sites that humanity today likes to inhabit is coastal. And that's kind of always been true of humans. We like to be near the ocean. And sea levels are higher now than they once were. So a lot of human history is going to be underwater. Probably not that far off coasts, but still underwater, and then under whatever's under the water, sand, dirt, whatever. I don't know I've never been to the bottom of the ocean, thankfully, but whatever's down there, getting under that to find the places to dig. There's an interesting story after the hurricanes that hit the East Coast, Hurricane Sandy, I guess, a while back. They sent dredges out, and the dredges kind of go off the coast, and there's these long pipes, and they just push sand back onto the beaches to sort of replenish the beaches. And some kid walking along found a Clovis point, a Indian arrowhead, a large Indian arrow spearhead on the beach. And they're like, there's no reason this should be on the beach. They don't float, they don't wash up. And then the best thing they could think is, because this was freshly, newly dredged beach, was that somewhere out to sea, one of those dredges was churning up artifacts and throwing them up onto the beach with the sand.
That's great.
So everything we know, we're probably looking at the thinnest sliver of a lot of human history in our artifact record.
Yeah.
Which we always are. But what's actually available to us might be a considerable amount just offshore.
Underwater. The underwater markets of the past. Oh, but you know what? It's time to move into the future. Keep moving forward. We do. You guys know what time it is?
I hope I do.
I think I know what time it is. It's time for Blair's Animal Corner.
Blair's Animal Corner with Blair.
Music sucks today.
What you got, Blair?
Are we skipping it, Kiki?
Just skip it.
Those are creatures, cry that small. Biped, millipede, no pet at all. Wanna hear about animals? She's your girl. Except for giant pandas and squirrels. There's Animal Corner.
What you got, Blair?
I have shrinking birds. Oh my goodness. So do you guys remember, I think it was almost 2 years ago already, I reported on shrinking goats. Do you remember this?
Yes.
There were goats that were living up in the mountains. I think it was in Europe. And they were following the temperature they were used to, which on a mountain is going to be up in elevation. And as they followed that higher elevation, generation after generation was shrinking. And after some scientific study, the theory was that it was a reduction in oxygen in the atmosphere that was not allowing them to grow as large. Well,
Okay.
now in a new study from Australia and New Zealand, they are looking at birds. And birds, the European house sparrow, which was actually introduced to Australia and New Zealand in the 19th century, have shown that they too are shrinking. So Macquarie University, Samuel Andrew and colleagues captured and measured 40 adult house sparrows. So again, this is a preliminary study, not a huge sample size, but 40 sparrows at 30 locations across Australia and New Zealand. And they found that the maximum temperatures during the summer when the birds breed were a better predictor of adult body size than winter minimum temperatures. So it was the hot heat that was that had more of an effect than the reduced lows in the winter. So the new expectation is that excessive heat during development can affect growth, which makes sense. And they now have found, this is only in a handful of studies looking at endotherms, at warm-blooded animals and effects on them in climate. Most people think about ectotherms, about cold-blooded animals in climate, because they're a much more obvious poster child for it, because their internal body temperature is directly related to the outside temperatures. And so they have much more extreme and immediate responses to subtle changes in the climate. But these guys, it might not be enough of an impact for them to move yet, these sparrows, but it is enough that it appears to be affecting their body size. Yeah. So previously, before they started this study, they actually expected that there was a chance that the size would actually be a regional thing, that it would have something to do with their family tree and the different kind of regional varieties of the sparrows. But they found that the region wasn't really the predictor. It was, in fact, the summer high temperature. So this is important because the more we understand how animals will respond to climate, the better we can prepare for the negative impacts. Of course, this is an introduced species, so we don't care so much about what happens to them because they're not even supposed to be there. But for other birds that are local,
they're basically endemic now. The house sparrows are all over the world at this point.
That's a fair point. But for protected species that cannot withstand small stressors like a reduction in body size can change a lot of things about an animal. A reduction in muscle mass, which reduces the flight range that they can reach. It reduces their ability to fight off predators or competitors for resources. So there's a lot of things that can happen when you shrink the body size of an animal too quickly. So that's kind of the bummer news about the birds.
Well,
but
hopefully it doesn't have terrible effects on their reproduction. And I mean, I'm just thinking, you're smaller, you don't have to eat as much to get energy. So maybe it's helping with energy conservation in individuals, and that if you help with energy conservation, then you have more energy for things like reproducing.
But
it could also be it's hot, in the summer, high temperatures, the birds are laying low and maybe they're not eating.
Right.
So,
the really dangerous thing, though, is that animals that live in colder climates have larger bodies to reduce heat loss. And if a hotter summer is coupled with a colder winter because of extreme weather from climate change, that can have a huge negative impact on those animals.
Right. So you might be able to make it through the summer, but then you'll be too cold in the winter and die of hypothermia.
Yeah, not great.
Yeah.
So, the shape and size of an animal is part of a very delicate balance of trial and error in evolution, where they found the right size and shape for what they need. And so when you make a tweak as a result of a changed environment in just a few generations, it's really hard to predict what's going to happen. But
yeah. Total aside from this, there was an article in Wired this last week talking about, and I think in another publication as well, but talking about the idea of engineering the climate on Earth, like putting iron particles in the ocean or sulfur in the atmosphere, various things to increase cooling of our atmosphere, as opposed to actually tackling our problems with
right.
carbon dioxide emissions. But they basically they said, hey, if we go about starting this path, if we suddenly go, hey, we don't want to do this anymore, we will have shifted things so much that things will crash. Things will come crashing down and ecosystems will be just destroyed. And it is this balance that you're talking about, where animals are adapted to particular situations, and it takes time to learn out to figure out the new balance for survival. And if you shift it too quickly in one direction or another, bad happens.
Yeah. It sounds like somebody's watching the coming attractions a little too closely. Isn't there a oh God, who's in it? There's a movie coming out about that, about the government altering the weather and it going bad. So
I don't have any concerns about that. I had a cat who controlled the weather at one point in time. She was great. Every time she was mad at me, she'd go walk behind the heater and change the weather.
I see. Sure, makes as much sense as the movie trailer. All right, moving on.
Right, moving on. Let's get some buzz.
Adorable bees. Oh my goodness. I love talking about bees and how they are adorable. Do you remember how we learned how they do the little waggle dance to say, pollen's over there, buzz, buzz, buzz. And then last year, my favorite animal story of the year was that bees run into each other and go, whoops.
I love that story. Whoops.
Well, the latest from honeybees is that they are actually very quiet neighbors. So when you take a bunch of humans, maybe 5 humans, you put them in a room and they're all talking, it's going to get loud-ish. If you then put 100 humans in a room and they're all talking,
deafening,
very loud. Put 1,000 humans in a room, have them all talking, you can't hear yourself think. So you would expect that the bigger the bee colony, the louder it would be. Well, a recent study published in Behavioral Ecology and Sociobiology reports that bigger honeybee colonies are actually quieter than smaller ones. As bees, yes, this gets...
Bigger colonies have different heating needs. They've got more bees to be air conditioners, and they got to fan their wings, and there's buzzing.
I can't wait to tell you more about this. It gets so much more exciting. So bees, as we said, they communicate with vibrations, little waggle dances in the comb, and that waggle dance actually follows, it vibrates the comb to spread that message across the colony. In order to get that message through, you have to eliminate background noise. Because if everybody was vibrating different messages at the same time, you wouldn't be able to hear any of the messages that they're trying to get across.
Oh yeah, if everybody's all at once saying go left, go right, go left, go right, go straight, go left, go right, then it's like, well, I heard every direction. I've got every direction going at once.
So it all started with Michael Smith, a doctoral student in neurobiology and behavior. He's the lead author on this paper. He wanted to see why this was. And then he enlisted the help of Po Chang Chen, who's a former doctoral student in the field of electrical and computer engineering. Chen made a chip that contains an accelerometer for measuring vibrations in 3 dimensions. It takes 800 samples in 1/8 of a second and does that for as long as you need it to. And so they attach these chips to the outside of honeycombs in a lab. They varied the number of bees on the combs by taking measurements with half of a colony, then an entire colony. In another experiment, they took measurements of an active colony at different times of the day, since the numbers of bees in the colony fluctuate throughout the day. And then, after they took a measurement, they counted the number of bees in each comb. What they found was that, indeed, the more bees, the quieter the comb. They suspect that the way they do that is by their posture, is that they are actually straddling the comb cells like little staples, they say, connecting different cells together, dampening the sound. Another hypothesis is that, like sailors on a teetering boat, they lean in to compensate for vibrations. The original expectation was that it was the sheer mass or weight of the bees. And so they took dead bees, they put them in comb cells, and then they took accelerometer measurements with more and more and more dead bees on the comb, and the dead bees had no effect on comb vibrations. So it was all about how many live bees were in the comb, which means the live bees are doing something actively while they are communicating to dampen the sound.
They are natural vibration dampers. Okay.
Yeah.
It's getting a little bit too loud in here. Simmer down now. Just simmer down. That's what the bees say. They say simmer down, and they hold on, and they say, we're going to shut this down a little. How on earth do they do that?
So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll find out more as this research continues. But I love this because it's an excellent pairing of someone who's an engineer and someone who's in biology. And they took an electrical engineering piece of research and used it to complete biological research in like a practical experiment in a lab. And that after all that, they didn't get the result they expected. And ultimately, they have a couple guesses, but it just raised more questions. They're going to have to keep going. But bees somehow, they have figured out how to whisper their communications to each other, essentially, in an enormous colony.
This is something that Bose and all those headphone companies where they want to make noise-canceling headphones, they need to be looking into bees.
Well, it sounds like I should just fill my headphones with bees.
Bees.
That's the obvious choice.
I like in our chat room, Bleak says maybe the live bees were just whispering about where all the dead bees came from.
They're just whispering about it. Yeah. Oh, this is fun. I can't wait to hear more about the bees. Bees, quieting it down. Simmer down now, everyone. It's getting a little loud in here.
Bees know how to use an inside voice.
They definitely do.
That's what we learned today.
Yes. All right. Well, this is the first half of This Week in Science. We're going to take a quick break and return with more science news in the second half of the show. I've got some smart contact lenses for you and a God helmet. Are you ready for that?
I don't even know what that means.
Oh, there's so much fun coming.
I can't wait.
You have no idea. Yes. So stay tuned for more, everyone. This is This Week in Science. Let's see if I can actually do this time.
I believe
everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of This Week in Science. I would love to let you know about a few things that you can do to help TWIS out, to help TWIS keep going week after week after week. So first off, I hope you know about our website. Our website is twis.org. And if you visit twis.org, you will be able to find all things related. It's a wonderful portal for TWIS related things. So you go to twis.org and you will find recent episodes. You will find announcements of things that are going on. You will also find some links to some videos and various other things. Now let's talk about those various other things. Now, if you love TWIS, one thing you might want to do is get some merchandise. Do you want a t-shirt or a hat or a mug that says TWIS on it with the TWIS logo? Well, you just click on the Zazzle icon or the Zazzle name in the header bar at twis.org, and it will take you to our Zazzle store. You'll find there we've got wonderful products, all printed by Zazzle, put together, but with the lovely TWIS logo for you. Additionally, there are items that include art from the various Blair's Animal Corners calendars from years past. Lots of things. I mean, who doesn't want a dinosaur mouse pad? T-Rex mouse pad. You know you want that. So anyway, click on Zazzle, the Zazzle store link. That will take you there. You'll be able to find really cool things to satisfy your TWIS merchandise needs. Beyond that, if you are interested in supporting us and helping us keep going, because as you've noticed, maybe we haven't had any advertisers this whole show, and that's because of people like you who are helping us out through Patreon and PayPal. Now, if you would like to help us out through PayPal, it's very easy. You just scroll down and there is a donut button. It's not a donut button. Nobody gets donuts. You know, maybe I want a donut now. Nope, just donate. I want you to donate. Please click on the donate button. It'll take you through a PayPal interface that'll allow you to donate. If you would like to donate more than just one time and do so on a recurring basis for PayPal, what you do is you click on the most recent episode or any of the episodes really, and scroll to the bottom of the show notes. You'll find pink buttons that will allow you to donate either at $2 a month, $5 a month, or $10 a month in a recurring fashion. Now, say you want to get involved in supporting us using Patreon. Well, with that, you click on the Patreon link that's at the very top of our page. Patreon link will take you to patreon.com/thisweekinscience, where we have our Patreon community. And you can click on the big orange-red button that says Become a Patron. Just click on that and tell us what level you would like to support us at, whether it's $1 a month or $100 a month. There are many levels for you to choose, and each of them has a fun reward that comes along with it. And you get to be part of the Patreon community who get some fun things that other people don't. So help us reach our milestone. We'd love to get to the $2,000 a month level on Patreon. Patreon donations of $2,000 a month. That would really help us out. So if you can help us do that, really appreciate you doing it. Patreon, click on that Patreon link, or PayPal, click on those donate buttons. Oh, look, you're going to see my notes. See, I've got notes for you. These are the things that I use to remind me to talk about these things to you. So twis.org, again, it's the place where you can go to find all sorts of information about the show. If you don't have the money to help us out, you just listen and you enjoy the show, but you're like, I don't need stuff. I don't want to do this subscription or paying you thing. And it's fine. TWIS is a free show. It is. But what we would really love is your help spreading the word to other people. Get other people listening to TWIS. That would help us so much. For us to be able to have people like you tell your friends. Your friends trust you, right? You tell your friends, this is a really great show. They'll believe you. And we might gain another listener. So please tell people about TWIS. Help spread the word, because without people doing that, it's hard for us to reach out further. We want to reach more people. We want to keep doing this. So please help us out. That's right. Get people to subscribe. There's a big subscribe button over at twis.org. So all of you, thank you for your support in all forms. We could not do this show without you.
It's that the lives that they lead need adjusting. They drive to the bookstore and blindly start trusting the miracles and cures all laid down in black ink, never even bothering to stop and think.
And we're back with more This Week in Science.
Oh, yeah, we are. Okay, we're back. And do you know what time it is now? It is time for This Week in What Has Science Done For Me Lately? All right, we have a letter this week from RR. RR wrote in and said, "Hey, Dr. Kiki, ever since you created this new segment, I've been wanting to write about something science has done for me lately. However, I couldn't think of anything but the obvious: technology, medicine, everything sciencey surrounding me, and most of your audience at home. And then today, as I was going through my morning ritual, it hit me. I have a long-running career in IT. And for the past 7 years, I've had a great job at a worldwide tech company. I'm not rich, but I have a pretty comfortable life. Around 4 years ago, I decided to study drawing and painting as a hobby. This year, I started selling art as a side thing, and I'm planning on expanding it in 2018. Overall, things are doing just fine, and I believe I can be considered a successful person. Here's the plot twist, though. I suffer from type 2 bipolar disorder. When I was diagnosed in my early 20s, it had been crippling me for years. I wasn't able to do anything for longer than a couple of months. Relationships, jobs, plans, college, anything I started went down the drain after a short period. And when the depression part of the cycle hit, it hit hard. I didn't know I had a diagnosis. I just thought I was a failure, and I was on the edge of becoming an alcoholic more than once, just trying to cope with not being able to function. All the things I mentioned above, having a long-running career, studying, even planning for the future, were unthinkable back then. This was 16 years ago. Then I got diagnosed and treated. And once the medication was adjusted and started to kick in, things started to get better. It was a long process, but I've been stable and free of episodes for the past 10 years. And that because of my morning ritual: wake up, have breakfast, and take an affordable little pill that keeps my brain working properly. I've been doing it for so long that I don't even notice it anymore and take it for granted. I shouldn't, though. So what has science done for me lately? Well, I have neuroscientists, doctors, therapists, scary big pharma, and a small pill to thank for pretty much my entire adult life. Science kept me going lately. It kept me going in the past 16 years, and it will keep me going in the future. It's kind of a big deal. Have a great new year. RR.
Wow, thank you for sharing. That was truly awesome. You'll also have to teach me how to sell art.
Oh, also me.
Right. You're not supposed, you do the art and then sell it. You're not supposed to just give it away all the time.
That's all I've done is I either give it away or just make more of it and collect it in my own private art gallery. That is
that works also. But RR, thank you so much for writing in with your tale. I mean, seriously, your entire adult life and the fact that you can consider yourself a success. You are a success and you're doing things that are so exciting. Thank you for sharing with us. And everyone out there, if you would like to share, if you have something inspiring that is inspired by science, how is science a part of your life every day? What has science done for you lately? Let me know. You can email me at kirsten@thisweekinscience.com, or you can send me a message on Facebook. So facebook.com/thisweekinscience. That's our account. Send me a message there if you're on Facebook. If not, kirsten@thisweekinscience.com. What has science done for you lately? Justin, tell me a story.
Yeah. So it is a new year. Many people have made New Year's resolutions. And if you're like more than 2/3 of Americans, you are overweight and perhaps made your New Year's resolution to lose some of that weight. And that resolution may have led you to contribute towards the $2 billion we spend on dietary supplements, promoted for weight loss. But do they really work? Of course they do. Why, it says so right there on the packaging. It will make you faster, stronger, thinner, better able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. They couldn't make those claims without evidence, right?
No.
Well, according to Ann L. Thurn, PhD, director of the Office of Dietary Supplements Communications Program at the NIH, when it comes to weight loss supplements, there's little evidence they actually work, and many manufacturers of weight loss supplements don't conduct studies on humans to find out whether their products work or are even safe. Some dietary supplements aren't actually meant to help you lose weight. They may actually be designed to help you gain weight or athletic performance of some type. And they might have a value for certain types of activity, according to Paul M. Coates, PhD, director of the Office of Dietary Supplements, while others don't seem to work and might even be harmful. So they created a pesky sheet of information at the Office of Dietary Supplements for the public to better judge the supplement ingredients by a fact sheet, if you will, covering more than 20 to 40 ingredients to such formulas, both for weight loss and for exercise. So let's see. This one was including for the physical athletic performance. Some of the ingredients included antioxidants, beetroot, tart cherry, branched chain amino acids, caffeine, creatine, and deer antler velvet.
What?
They point out creatine, as an example, might help with short bursts of high-intensity activity like sprinting or weightlifting, but is not for endurance efforts like distance running or swimming. It'll have no effect. Antioxidants, such as vitamin C and E, don't seem to improve any type of physical activity whatsoever. They're just needed in very small amounts for overall health. And deer antler velvet? Are you serious? This is
Wait, how do they get that? You have to chase after deer.
An adolescent deer whose antlers haven't turned to bone yet?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no scientific evidence that ingesting this is anything other than weird. The weight loss list of must be good for something. Why else are they highlighting it on the ingredient label? Include African mango, beta-glucans, chromium, garcinia, green tea, hoodia, raspberry, ketones. Chromium might help you lose a very small amount of weight and body fat and is safe, but raspberry ketones haven't been studied enough to know whether they're safe or effective. Drinking green tea, they consider safe. Taking green tea extract pills, though, has been linked to liver damage in some people.
Oh, yikes.
Right. So this is just like the generalized word of caution. If you go to their website, it's on the NIH, National Institute of Health website. This is the ODS, Office of Dietary Supplements. You can Google that. You can find these lists. One of the things that's pointed out, unlike drugs, there are no provisions in the law for FDA to approve dietary supplements for safety or effectiveness before they reach the consumer. None. Once a dietary supplement is marketed, FDA has to prove that the product is not safe in order to restrict its use or remove it from the market. So even the supplement info site on the NIH that was browsing around looking at it can be a little bit suspect. I happen to because I got these calcium supplements that I was taking because somebody said, yeah, calcium helps you sleep. I'm like, sometimes I'm a little insomniatic. I'll go and try. Let me take some of these. Under calcium, they say, over the long term, intakes of calcium below recommended levels have health consequences, such as causing low bone mass, osteopenia. Yes, osteopenia, the fraudulently fabricated, not a condition created by Merck to sell osteoporosis meds to people who don't have osteoporosis, is listed on this site as a possible outcome of having not enough calcium. Ugh. So it is truly ingester beware out there. But as long as you have a few $billion to spare, America, spend it on something that will definitely work. Dr. Justin's not a real Dr. Poo Pills. Results not guaranteed because the claims are unsubstantiated.
I'd say you'd be better off paying for a gym membership you're not going to use than for a weight loss pill.
Right. Like some of the
and we've known some of the stuff that's in there, we don't exactly know how it works. I mean, historically, things have gone wrong. People have had heart attacks while running on treadmills. And then suddenly it's like, oh, maybe we shouldn't put ephedra in these diet pills anymore. And that's usually the way it works. Additionally, like you said, Justin, it's not there's nobody regulating and testing to make sure that the concentration of something that is printed on the label is actually the concentration of things that are in the bottle. And then beyond that, what is the concentration that you should be taking for your weight, your size, or should you even be taking it?
Should you be taking and yeah, what's in it and what's in what concentration is a whole thing, because even though there have been claims by some of these that they have a standardized production method, that they often that is interpreted by the companies as having followed a recipe of some sort. And is not a FDA standardized anything. There's actually one of the intriguing things in all of this too is a completely different story. But the NFL Players Union pays for this pretty large laboratory, which does nothing but test supplements. And the reason that they test supplements is because the athletes want the edge. They want, baby, I want some deer antler. Okay, give me the deer antler velvet thing. But what they end up getting,
I want to grow antlers.
Do you really want to eat skin, bro? What the?
Right. But what often happens is that there is some growth hormone that isn't in antlers, but has been added to the formula that the NFL players are not allowed to take lest they lose their job for 4 to 6 weeks and maybe $1 million of income along with it, which is why this lab is funded, because even what's said to be in there often isn't what's in there. So it's this huge thing because there is no oversight. And it's a growing problem, and we'll be talking about it forever until the law changes.
Yeah, and in addition to supplements, I'm going to say probiotics. I'm going to put those in there. We talk a lot about bacteria on this show and how important the microbiome is. But as of now, even though there is research linking the microbiome of humans with health and the immune system and the brain and all sorts of stuff, we don't know how it all works together. And so when you take probiotics, you are actually potentially throwing things off balance and off kilter. And at this point in time, really the only reason that probiotics are suggested is if you're taking an antibiotic to kill the bacteria so that you help things get back to normal. But really, the probiotics, they are a drop in the bucket of the trillions of bacteria that are in your belly. And yeah, they're not regulated.
They're not regulated. And again, this is, I think, of the 150, 200 stories, whatever, that I personally brought to the show last year, maybe 50 of them were about the microbiome and something we just learned. And there have been probiotics on the shelves on the market for years making claims. So,
and if I can, of course, make it about animals for a second. Shocking. Going back to the antler velvet. It's whenever you put animal parts in a medicine or a dietary supplement or anything like that, and you make a claim of what that does, that can be so problematic because ultimately most of the things from animals that you're putting in medicine, bile, horn, whisker, velvet, these things have the same building blocks that are in our own body. You're not really doing anything new for your body by ingesting a bunch of keratin. You have plenty.
Although I think by licking my cat, I have reduced my allergies.
Well, there you go. So there are ways to do it without killing endangered species. And I would say the same thing for plants too. There's lots of endangered, protected plants that are disappearing that people want to think have this mysterious impact on your body when there's no scientific evidence of that. And so harvesting it in huge amounts to solve a problem that may or may not exist can be really detrimental to your health in other ways when you destroy ecosystems.
Yeah. Another bit of news along this front, potential for creating synthetic elephant and rhinoceros horns. So the question now is being raised, well, we're getting the stuff together to be able to create synthetic horns or synthetic ivory. Should we? Or should we keep putting a kibosh on the market? So I'm just putting that out there. I don't really want to discuss it. I just want to throw it out there. We're going to keep moving right now. We can talk about it in the after show.
Yes, please let.
I'm going to keep moving into smart contact lenses, things that we've been wanting to build forever. We've got researchers at Brigham Young University making holograms that they say don't call it a hologram because it's actually better than a hologram. They're creating these things three-dimensional. You can see it, the tiny things that float in space, images. They did a two-dimensional Princess Leia thing. Anyway, holograms. But these other researchers have fully created smart contact lenses. And why on earth would you want smart contact lenses?
So you can see your phone screen in your eye.
Well, there's that kind of thing that we could do. Or we could have smart contact lenses with sensors in them for a non-invasive way of monitoring blood glucose. Yes, because diabetics for years have been forced to prick their fingers, to take injections, to go through all sorts of hoops to measure their blood glucose. But what if there were a way that were easier for diabetics to instantly know whether or not their blood glucose levels had reached a certain level? And so researchers who just published in Science Advances have developed a soft, not a hard contact lens, a soft, flexible contact lens that doesn't impair vision in any way. So the sensor itself is so small that it doesn't get in the way of vision, and people would be able to see through it. Now, the sensor is embedded into this contact lens surface and is basically bathed in the tears that are produced by the eye. And the tears that are produced by the eye have glucose in them, and so can be used as an indirect measure of the amount of glucose that's in the blood. What they created is a sensor that can tell how much glucose is in a solution, and it's connected to a small circuit that is connected to an LED. Very little LED, but when you're talking about something that's in the field of view or just off the side, as a wearer, you would see a light turned on if your glucose level is fine, or if your glucose levels raised too much, then the light would potentially turn off. And so you would see a pixel of light turn on or turn off in your field of view. And when that pixel of light changed its activation, then you would know, I need to up my insulin. I need to do something to protect my health. And Ben Rothig in the chat room is saying, can I test this? I'm type 2. Yeah, so they have gotten to the point where they are starting to test this in vivo. They have tested it in vitro. They have tested it on mice, and it has worked fabulously on the eyes of mice. They were able to, from an external source, be able to trigger the LED on and off. It did not irritate the eye of these mice that they tested it on. And when they used the lens material on a camera lens, there really wasn't any disruption in vision. So this is the kind of thing that really will probably, if there's nothing that gets in the way, this is something that is almost ready to make it to market. This is getting there. This is so cool.
Nice.
I mean, I don't know how much this will cost, but it's so cool.
This is one of those things that I feel like is sci-fi come true.
Yeah.
Is an in-eye display to keep you healthy.
Yeah, it's like, and it's just 1 pixel. It's just a little light in the eye. It'll keep you healthy. But this is also, this is the direction of of contact lens technology, and that they've been able to create a soft wearable contact lens that has these smart features to it. Not just, this, if it can monitor glucose, what else can it monitor in the tears? Additionally, what else can they put into it? Can they put other things into it? What other heads-up displays can we put into our contact lenses?
Yeah.
Oh, we could do something like they have in Snapchat, and then like through facial recognition, it can turn all of your friends or coworkers into cartoon characters.
Oh, that would be funny.
When your boss is chewing you out, you just turn him into a hot dog, and then you're just getting yelled at by a hot dog. You're like, go ahead, you still look delicious.
You look delicious. You just chew me out. I'm gonna eat a hot dog. Oh, you got another story, Justin?
Yeah, this is a bisphenol A story. Something we haven't really talked about a bunch lately. It's a chemical that is so similar to estrogen in its construction that when it gets into the human body thinks it's estrogen and uses it as such. So bisphenol A also goes by the name BPAs, which if you're a parent, you've probably noticed because every kid product out there says it's BPA free on the packaging. And the reason so many children's products tout the fact that they are BPA free is because these products used to be full of bisphenol A. They were very handy in making things like binkies, the tips for bottles, for bottle feeding, and it's nice in making malleable type plastics and kids chew toys and all sorts of things. They were also in water bottles. Regular, you go jogging, you take a nice swig from your water bottle that's been in the sun and heated up, and the bisphenol A is transferred into the water. Yeah, that'll be bisphenol A free, Blair. No need to inspect.
I know.
It's been removed from pretty much everything.
I have one of these that's very old, that's maybe 15 years old, and it is not BPA free.
Oh, it probably still is, even 15 years ago. I think they went after the water bottles first, I want to say, or the kid products first and water bottles, probably about the same time.
And the lining of cans, because even though you think you're just getting a metal can, canned foods, there's plastic inside of those cans.
It's still in the lining of a lot of cans. This is true. It is the U.S. restricted the use of bisphenol A because of environmental and health concerns. There's bad things that happen when you introduce a lot of estrogen into a male or female body that wasn't looking for a lot of extra estrogen.
Yeah.
Or a child who's getting induced with this, basically human hormone at a very young age. Consequences were so it is still, however, used widely on one everyday product, pretty much on one everyday product everywhere that you are likely handling with some frequency. Blair, what is it?
Oh, I know what it is.
I think I know what it is too. You got to just tell me.
Know what it is.
It's receipts, isn't it?
It's on receipts, yes. Yeah. So thermal papers that are used in cash registers, tickets, labels, because they're cheap, easy, and reliable. For thermal paper to work properly in printing, it is impregnated with two molecules, a dye and a color developer. The color developer they use is bisphenol A.
Oh.
That makes the paper react to the dye and change colors when heated. Something that has lots of health effects. Why would we still have this in here? And the reason is, can you guess?
You're not sucking on receipts.
You're touching them, though. You're
handling
them.
I don't know. Am I the only person that wants to wash my hands after I've been touching a receipt because they feel yucky?
I don't take them anymore. I'm like, no, don't need it. Like, there's no tax write-off.
The reason they don't have it, though, the reason they're still using it, though, is because they don't have a better product.
Yeah.
There's nothing better.
Exactly. Correct, Kiki. Ding, ding, ding. Points to Kiki. Now, that's what the story is. There's a new product available or coming soon.
Cool.
Manufacturers turn to polymeric materials as a potential substitute because they are large and cannot easily move through membranes. So some of these polymers tested thus far have similar properties to BPA, but the developers' results had been mediocre. Researchers have found an alternative developer that would perform as well as BPA. Phenolic resin polymers, because they're easy to make, inexpensive, will react with the dyes in thermal paper. They were stable under high temperatures and reacted with the dye just as well as BPA. Not on the market yet, but coming. But my little aside here, it's not going to kill you. I mean, but if you're saving those receipts, if you got receipts in your back pocket, if you're throwing them into your wallet because you don't know what else to do with them when they hand them to you, you can tell them, no thanks. You're probably not writing off your groceries in your taxes. At the gas station, that soda that you bought and the couple gallons of gas, you're not writing that off.
You know what, though? The question there is, what about the cashiers? Because they're handling receipts all day. That's really the problem.
Yeah.
Because you say no thanks, they have to throw that receipt away for you.
If young Jimmy at the express line at the supermarket seems to be a little extra developed for a young man his age, or any man, yeah, it could be. He's been exposed to high doses of estrogen and didn't even know it.
Well, if anybody has been exposed to high doses of estrogen, maybe they can use the God helmet to have a religious experience about it.
What is this this blasphemy you talk about that I must find out?
God helmet.
What is?
So researchers have been developing a helmet of sorts. It's more a suggestive helmet for psychological religious experiences. And this power there have been previous studies where the God helmet it's a helmet. It's like a skater's helmet that has a bunch of wires in it, but doesn't actually do anything. And the suggestion is that there's sensory deprivation that happens, but the participants are instructed that the helmet stimulates their brain electromagnetically to elicit various types of extraordinary experiences. Now, we know that transcranial brain stimulation to particular areas of the brain can result in spiritual feelings and effects. So, researchers in psychology, they're like, well, what if we didn't actually do any stimulation and just got at the part of it that's kind of placebo effect, and people...
It's a helmet with wires.
Yeah, it's just a helmet with wires. There's nothing happening at all. And so this study I love so much. These researchers went to a Dutch music festival. And they recruited people at a Dutch music festival to come and wear the God helmet and let them know, for a certain period of time, and to let them know what kind of extraordinary experiences they had. And they were given this suggestion that if they wear the helmet and they have the sensory deprivation, they're going to have some kind of mystical spiritual experience. They did a test on the people who volunteered for the study to find out kind of what their predisposition was for spiritualism. So were they self-identified as spiritual or religious? And then they did a test of their alcohol intoxication.
That was what I was just going to ask about, as if they had to do an alcohol or drug test.
They did not do any other drug screening, which I think is a downfall in this study.
The music festival. What were they thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you do an easy drug test at a music festival for people volunteering, but I think that if they could have, that would have been optimal. But they did an alcohol intoxication test. What they found, however, is that alcohol intoxication had absolutely nothing to do with the spiritual experiences that people had, and the entire experience was completely predicted by their self-identification with certain levels of spirituality. People who were not spiritual at all put on the helmet, sensory deprivation, and were like, nothing's happening, this thing doesn't work, and they would take off the helmet and walk away, or they would end it and say that wasn't anything, nothing happened. People who self-identified as very spiritual had very extreme experiences. And so the placebo effect was psychologically produced by people with no influence based on intoxication, at least from alcohol.
From alcohol. I also wonder how much of this is the placebo effect and how much of it is an emperor's new clothes situation. Did these people watch other people with the helmet on beforehand?
Possibly, yeah. I don't know what the setup looked like. At a music festival, you probably have open booths,
right,
that people are walking past. It maybe was near a stage or something.
Right. So it could very well be that someone took it off and went, "Oh my God, let me tell you what I experienced," and then the next person that put it on, they felt this pressure to indicate that something happened.
This is probably going too far from this, but I think that a lot of religion is just what you described there, Blair. When you see, like, for instance, like as is common practice in specific type of religion where people will speak in tongues during the sermon, that doesn't happen. Like, unless you are already prescribing yourself with this religion as your placebo, right? Like, you've already decided, okay, this is my religion, and now what goes along with that is people tend to speak in tongues. That's a real thing to these people, and then they speak in tongues. Whereas you don't see that happening, like, on the Muni, or on the BART, or like, you don't walk down the street. Oh, obviously this person riding underground is speaking in tongues. I'll catch up with you later. You're busy, I can see. Right? Like, a lot of these spiritual experiences seem to be very specific to the religion that the people belong to. I do think it's interesting that they chose a concert.
Yeah.
It was an easy way probably to get a wide variety of individuals. I mean, you've got people who are wandering past, and if you can talk them into joining the study, hey, take 20 minutes, join our study. They were able, I think it's an interesting question at a music festival. You're going to be getting a different subpopulation of people than you would at the usual university. So I think they probably got a broader spectrum of people and psychological types. I love some of the from the study itself, some of the responses that people had. And so let's see, participant A, they have the experience, and participant A said, "It felt as if I was floating, as if I was no longer on the chair." Participant B, "I had the feeling that the helmet was taking control over me. My head started turning around and my eyes were spinning." Participant C, I went into a dialogue with a dark circle. It sounded like my own voice, yet also different. It was something higher. The voice told me I was ready to get children, even though the circumstances were suboptimal. Deep down, I already knew this, and I became very emotional and started crying. But I was never afraid. I have never had such an experience. It was truly amazing.
Okay.
Look, I just want to talk you through this. Okay, so you're a biological life form on the planet Earth, which is controlled by gravity. You will not float away. You've ingested a little bit of MDMA or LSD, and it's going to be okay. You just have to try to just roll with the thoughts as they come through, and just let them go again. Let them go again. There'll be new ones that come after. It'll be a new experience in just a few seconds. Just allow this process to play out.
Yeah, I find it interesting. So maybe it does have to do with the particular spirituality of each of these individuals, maybe drugs that they didn't report taking when they were a part of this study, but different categories that they had of the experiences that were reported by participants were things like ego dissolution. So that people felt as if their soul or spirit was dissolving and that they themselves were no longer present, or they had moving surroundings. And so that's objects in the environment moving around them, shaking desks or chairs. They felt forces that some participants reported they noticed influence of things like being pushed or pulled, or a change in gravity, or a presence of energy or electricity, and then a feeling of oneness, and that participants reported feeling one with the universe or with other beings. Now, I would love to know, the subset of individuals that these descriptions, these categories occurred in, and did they have another drug in their system? Are they people who take mushrooms on a regular basis? There has been research that suggests there are psychological effects of taking hallucinogens over long periods of time on the way that you perceive yourself in relation to the world. So I don't know.
And just
I don't know. I'd love this whole thing is so fascinating because it's all placebo.
Sake of these things, being one with the universe and being one with your fellow human being are very different things. Being one with the universe, which is mostly inhospitable to life, hates life, destroys life. Life can't exist in almost all of it. Versus being very one with these other life forms that happen to be existing on this one rock orbiting a nuclear fireball 90 million miles away. Yeah, there's a very different onenesses. You can't say it's both. Those are two completely diametrically opposed onenesses that you're describing.
Yeah. So anyway, if you ever are at a music festival and someone asks if you want to try a God helmet, it's a psychological trick.
Yeah, which is too bad. Like there is like part of me too that wishes that I wasn't as skeptical, perhaps, or educated, or didn't know this story, and that we just encountered this and somehow believed that the people who were offering for us to put this helmet on had some really neurologically sciencey sort of sounding reasons why it could actually work, and then try it. Like part of me is like really disappointed whenever I hear something like this, and I already know it's like, the placebo thing. Like, I wish I could just walk through and do it first and then learn about it just to see if it works, because now it can never work.
It'll never work. I ruined it for you. Sorry.
Brains are so interesting, because I would argue that if they had a helmet that did manipulate you into having some sort of vision, and to some people you called it a God helmet, and to some people you told them, we're manipulating your neurons to make you see different things, and then you took those different named helmets that were actually the same and tested them on spiritual people versus not spiritual people, you'd see very different things. You would see the skeptics, the non-spiritual people, wearing a quote-unquote God helmet. They'd say, I didn't see anything. But if you put them in the one that says, where they tell you, we're manipulating your neurons, they'd probably say, I saw these amazing colors, right?
So your brain enacted once, so your creativity will be unlocked.
Yes, that's that
right.
in and of
so
itself.
The priming of it.
And just the fact that you're calling it a God helmet
Yep.
is going to make some people not want to feel anything.
Yeah. That's very good insight. Thank you for that. So you got to have multiple helmets: the science helmet, the God helmet,
Yeah.
the creativity helmet.
Yes.
Yeah. You can try them all and see if any of them work.
Mhm.
Something
whatever
else.
costuming you want it to be.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. Exactly.
we'll
Something else that you could try. I'm down to the short, quick stories at the end of the show. I love curry. Curry is fantastic. And for years, there's been kind of this evidence coming and going about curcumin, a compound in curry, and whether or not it is good for the brain and good for your health and wonderful. Well, a new study out of UCLA gave curcumin supplements to 50 to 90-year-olds who complained of minor memory issues. I don't know where I put my keys, that kind of stuff, but did not have dementia of any kind. And then over the course of 18 months, they tested their memory on several measures, and then also did brain scans to look at tau tangles and plaques related to dementia and Alzheimer's. They found that over that 18 months, memory improved across the board in individuals who were taking the curcumin supplements versus a placebo control, as did these taus and the tangles and plaques, which are indicative of dementia and Alzheimer's. Even though these people hadn't been diagnosed with dementia and Alzheimer's, there were tangles and plaques in people's brains that decreased over time with the ingestion of the curcumin. So,
wait a second. Okay, hang on. I heard you wrong the first time through, because at first it sounded like their memory improved, but they also had more tangles and plaques.
Fewer.
So they were progressing with the disease.
No. Fewer tangles and plaques and better memory.
I'll take that tikka masala now.
That's right. Eat curry 3 times a day. And I love this story. Oh my goodness. A New Zealand space company has put a disco ball in space. They called it Humanity Star. The Humanity Star. And it really, it looks like a big shiny disco ball, and they put it into orbit around the Earth. They've launched regular payload missions out of New Zealand. And they're like, hey, we're a space company. We can put things in space. We're just going to put this disco ball in space. And so they've put this Humanity Star in space. It is going to last.
That thing is super awesome. Tell me it has a function.
It has no function other than to be something people can look up at as it orbits the planet over the next 9 months, and is a star that is man-made and a sign of the progress of humanity and what we are capable of. So if you go to humanitystar.com, you can find out more about the Humanity Star, how we all are members of the human race here on one planet, Earth, under one sky. We all look at the same stars. Well, northern, southern hemisphere kind of stuff. But you can track the path of the Humanity Star to see when you might be able to see it. Now, I put Portland, Oregon in, and it told me that it's going to be like 925 hours before I'm going to get to see it.
A little while.
It's a little while. But that's only the beginning of March, so there may be many opportunities over the next 9 months.
So
why 9 months?
That's just how long it's going to take before its orbit decays and it burns up and as it re-enters.
So I love this project because they created a shiny object, they put it in space, and they said, hey, go look at it. So if you haven't been tracking objects as they go into orbit, like the space station or something like this, here's something you could go and look for in your night sky and say, oh, wow, it's really there. But their statement of, this is what humanity is capable of, is,
lobbing stuff into space.
A little late. It's sort of like, also, I would like to add, a ceramic vessel which can hold liquids is something humanity is capable of. It's kind of been in space for a while. It's not really a new thing. But I do like this project. That's pretty awesome. And I'm glad and welcome New Zealand to the Brotherhood of Space.
That's
And
right.
Sisterhood of Space. I didn't mean to be.
Yeah, and maybe this is very important. Like always, I want to say in Portland. It's important. Fada sent a link to me this evening related to proposal to reduce or remove funding for the International Space Station by 2025. And while that is not in itself a crazy idea, because the NASA itself is talking about decommissioning the ISS around 2024. And that's when our partnerships with other countries run out. 2024 is kind of a threshold for the International Space Station. But if we don't have anything up there, if we don't have things that we're looking at up in space, if we don't have something driving us to keep people in space, there's going to be a huge gap if we don't continue funding the International Space Station until commercial space entities like this New Zealand company, Rocket Lab, until companies like them, like SpaceX and others, are able to pick up the mantle of putting people in space. So the government has a role in that, and if we fall back on our funding, there will be no people in space. There won't be those things to look up to in the night sky and know that we are expanding our boundaries. So more things to remind us of that as we move forward.
Of course, if you want to expand boundaries, we don't have to go to outer space. The other way is, and this is what I'm going to start getting behind, is an effort to go underground. Because there's plenty of real estate underground, untapped territories as vast as the surface of the planet, and more so because we could even be under the oceans. Like, there's a lot more territory we could explore.
Deep sea trenches.
Underground.
That's where my vote goes. Deep sea trenches.
For sure.
All move underground.
We can go underground. We can build tunnels on the moon, maybe. I mean, we've discovered there are volcanic tunnels on the moon. Let's go dig in those. Let's make our bases and tunnels on the moon. So many things we can do. Oh my goodness. Have we made it to the end of our show?
We have done it.
We have done it. Hello, everybody. Thank you for being with us through our show. It is the time now where I would love to thank all of you so much for joining us. Thank you to Fada for helping with show notes and the YouTube descriptions. Thank you to Identity4 for recording the audio for us. And thank you to Brandon for helping to simulcast us on Facebook. We appreciate all your help. And thank you to our Patreon sponsors. I would like to say thank you for being a sponsor. Thank you, Aaron Luthen, Alex Wilson, Andy Groh, Ben Rothig, Bert Lattimore, Bill Kersey, Bob Calder, Brendan Minish, Brian Condren, Brian Carrington, Byron Lee, Charlene Henry, Christopher Dreyer, Christopher Rappin, Craig Landon, Deepak Chopra, the Woo Master, E.O., Edward Dyer, Eric Knapp, Flying Out, Gary Swinsberg, Greg Briggs, Greg Guthman, Greg Riley, Jacqueline Boyster, Jason Olds, Jason Roberts, Jim Drapeau, John Crocker, John McKee, John Ratnaswamy, Joshua Fury, Ken Hayes, Kevin Parachan, Kurt Larson, Lisa Slizewski, Matt Sutter, Marjorie Cohen, Mark Hessenflow, Matthew Litwin, Patrick Cohn, Paul Disney, Paul Sampson, Richard Hendricks, Richard Onimus, Robert Aston, Robert Coburn, Rudy Garcia, Sean Lamb, Steve Lessman, Stephen DeBell, Tony Steele. Thank you, everyone, for your support on Patreon. And if you would like to support us on Patreon, please go to patreon.com/thisweekinscience or just TWIS.org and click on the Patreon link and help us out that way. On next week's show, dun, 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 we're going to be back again. It's the end of the year. We are going to be broadcasting on the night of the super blue blood moon, January 31st Are we
The
not?
end of the year?
I mean, the end of the month. Come on.
Oh. I was just like,
It's 2019, Justin. Get with it.
I know I'm a little.
We already went through a whole year. Come
I know
on.
I'm a little bit of an
Time's
airhead
you
sometimes,
been?
but I'm like,
Have you had that God helmet
I'm
on for
pretty
too
sure.
long? What's going on here?
This year really went by fast. They keep coming quicker and quicker and quicker. The older I get.
So you will be broadcasting live online at 8 p.m. next Wednesday evening on twis.org/live. You can watch live, join us in the chat room, or if you can't make it, don't worry, our past episodes are archived online, so you can find them at twis.org/YouTube or at twis.org, or also at facebook.com/thisweekinscience.
Thank you for enjoying the show. TWIS is also available as a podcast. Just Google This Week in Science in your iTunes directory, or if you have a mobile type device, you can search for TWIS, the number 4 Droid app in the Android marketplace, or simply This Week in Science in anything Apple marketplacey.
For more information on anything you've heard here today, show notes will be available on our website. That's at www.twis.org, where you can also make comments and start conversations with the hosts or other listeners.
Or you can contact us directly. Email Kirsten at thisweekinscience.com, Justin at twistminion@gmail.com, or Blair at blairbaz@twis.org. Just be sure to put TWIS, that's TWIS, somewhere in the subject line, or your email will be spam filtered into oblivion. You can also hit us up on the Twitter, where we are at TWIScience, at Dr. Kiki, at Jacksonfly, and at Blair's Menagerie. We love your feedback. If there's a topic you would like us to cover or address, a sonnet, a suggestion for an interview, a haiku that comes during the night, please let us know.
We'll be back right here next week. And we hope you'll join us again for more great science news.
And if you have learned anything from the show, please remember,
It's all in your head.
This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science, it's the end of the world. So I'm setting up shop, got my banner unfurled. It says the scientist is in, I'm gonna sell my advice. Show them how to stop the robots with a simple device. I'll reverse global warming with a wave of my hand. And all it'll cost you is a couple of grand. 'Cause this week's science is coming your way. So everybody listen to what I say. I use the scientific method for all that it's worth, and I'll broadcast my opinion all over the earth. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got one disclaimer, and it shouldn't be news, that what I say may not represent your views, but I've done the calculations and I've got a plan. If you listen to the science, you may just better understand that we're not trying to threaten your philosophy. We're just trying to save the world from jeopardy. Jeopardy. And This Week in Science is coming your way. So everybody listen to everything we say, and if you use our method instead of rolling a die, we may rid the world of toxoplasma. Got the eye. 'Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 I've got a laundry list of items I want to address, from stopping global hunger to dredging Loch Ness. I'm trying to promote more rational thought, and I'll try to answer any question you've got. But how can I ever see the changes I seek when I can only set up shop 1 hour a week? This Week in Science is coming your way. You better just listen to what we say. And if you learned anything from the words that we said, then please just remember it's all in your head. Cause it's This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in Science. This Week in Science. This Week in Science. 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 This Week in 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 Science.
And we are at the after show, and I will do my best. My computer's freaking out, probably because there's a swelling battery, and the mouse is going crazy because I don't have an external mouse. It's just the mouse pad, and it says koo-koo-koo. It's koo-koo-koo, koo-koo-koo. It's the after show.
Cuckoo-riku, cuckoo-riku.
Yeah. It's time to get away from this setup that I got here. Get into my new studio. I need a new computer. I was going to build a computer, but hey, graphics cards, you're expensive. Thanks a lot, Bitcoin miners. So now I'm trying to decide, do I buy from someone like Alienware or Origin PC or someone? Do I buy a computer from a company that'll make me a computer? I'm not going to make my own computer anymore. What do I do?
You could also do what I do and buy a refurb.
I could do that as well. Yeah, but I'm going to get away from the Macintosh again. I thought I wanted the Macintosh for all of the video editing and all the stuff, but then in the last few years, Macintosh is not the leader in this anymore, and especially if I'm doing mostly live streaming.
Yeah, Google definitely talks to PCs better.
Google talks to PCs better. So I'm going to have the PC. I have to figure out, what do I do? What do I do? I buy a computer. Got all these questions about buying computers. Yeah. Icon over at YouTube. Yes, the recording will be great, hopefully. I'm sorry about my audio. I can't even hear it on my end. On my end, my audio is fine. So I apologize if I've been having crackling. I can't even hear it. Yeah.
It really sounds like a connection. It sounds like some cord or plug needs to be wiggled or something's not grounded or something.
Which is very possible, but I mean, this is the setup as it's been for a while.
Yeah.
Did it do it there?
Yeah, you're crackling still, but it didn't do it when you did that.
It didn't do it when I did that. Okay, well, it's not the... Have I been crackling the whole show really badly?
I mean, it hasn't been that bad, but it's been going in and out.
I'm sorry. I hate bad audio. It does not make me happy. Yeah, so I will try replacing cables and see what that does.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to test it.
I know. I can't hear it.
Yeah. Oh, that was crackly.
Yeah, I'm messing with some cables.
Yeah, that's super crackly, whatever that is.
Did it stop?
Yeah.
Okay. Crackly cables.
Nope, still crackly.
Fudge buckets, but why is it only when I start talking?
Yeah, it's only when you talk. Or when the music was playing too, actually.
Oh, when the music was playing too?
Yes. So it's from...
So it's not my mic then?
No, it's not your mic. Yeah, it was... The music was playing. So it's got to be from your output from your little box would be my assumption. Right? You have a little box that has all your inputs plugged into it, right?
Well, I've got a mixer and I also have an external sound card. So Could be the external sound. It could be either of those. So what I need to do is replace the cable that's between the mixer and the sound card to see if it's a cable issue. And then I need to plug in directly to the sound card, I guess, with my mic to see if it's a sound card.
Oh, Identity 4. Are you a magician?
I know, magic.
But that doesn't seem possible. That's
Is there?
Are you a wizard?
Is there a special editing decrackler? Only occasional. All right.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, it's not my phone. Really apologize. The pain. Apologize. Could be my phone, but I've had my phone with me while broadcasting many, many, many times. So, yeah.
Did you just pick it up?
My phone?
Yeah, did you just move it?
I did.
Put it back where it was.
I did. I did. It's just right
Okay,
there.
now it's crackling again. Pick it up again. Okay, now talk.
Say something.
Okay, I don't know. Is it still crackling? I don't know.
No,
it's not crackling now.
Maybe I need to hold my phone to ground it.
Nope, you're crackling now. Did you put it back down?
No, I picked it up again. I'm wiping my phone screen.
Okay, you're not crackling now.
Yeah, it's not my phone, and I'm putting it down.
The plot thickens.
I hate crackles. Sorry, you guys. I really, really hate bad audio. This makes me upset.
Well, it's cool though, because Identity 4's a wizard.
No, he says he can't because it's when I talk.
Oh.
Yeah. Cookadoo. Cookadoo. Oh, technical cookadoo. All right. Well, yeah. That was fun last week. It was great seeing you guys in person.
That was super fun.
It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's great. I love doing live shows with you guys.
Aw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't we do that every week?
We do, but it's different.
Like,
wait, Blair, are you recorded? Do you pre-record your element of the show? I always thought we were all live.
Yes, Justin, I am recorded.
Okay, Alienware is powerful.
Now I don't even know what to think.
What do you mean you don't like my shirt? How dare you? Well, same to you.
Wow.
That's enough. Do I get a chance to speak now?
For a very hostile show.
Whatever, Karen.
Oh,
Karen.
I gotta find this link from the last. Oh, the other thing probably.
The brick. Something about a brick.
I'm getting the yawny sleepies.
Yeah, it's after 10.
It's after 10.
Yikes.
I am a pumpkin. You guys like the new slate?
Oh, yeah. I do.
Isn't that fun?
It's very fun.
It's so fun. My friend Ford gave it to me. I went and did a video shoot on Friday, and he's like, I brought you a present. I was like, that's awesome. He's
That's
like,
great.
He goes, do you have a clapper? And I was like, my hands. He's like, yeah, you need a real one.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah. Now I'm a realio, trulio video producing YouTube person.
But you didn't.
I know.
It was hidden. Defeats the whole purpose of the clapper.
Beginning. Yeah, Ed from Connecticut, the live show is great for live audience feedback. There's definitely something to be said for having people there. Although when I'm doing the show live, I mean, we usually have a shorter amount of time, or we have, the set amount of time. So I'm very aware of the clock and how much time we have to talk about different stories. And I'm also very aware of people looking elsewhere and starting to look at the ceiling.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, we're going to lose them. It's time to do something else.
Yeah. That's true. It can be distracting. Especially if somebody pulls out a phone. You're like, crap.
I lost them to the phone. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or if somebody gets up, they could just be getting up to pee. You don't know. But of course, you're like, they hated it. They left.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We did have, though, there were a couple of women.
Just real quick.
Oh, I was going to say there were a couple of women who came who were at the show last year. I remembered them from last year. So that was great.
Fun.
Yeah, they were in the front row.
Kiki, I don't know if you read directly from. I'm having some weird updatey thing problem here, but I'm not sure if you read directly from your intro rundown at the beginning of the show, but I just noticed it.
Did I write 2000? Did I say 2017?
I don't know what you said.
Oh, I did. I probably said 2017 because somebody in the chat room was like, dope, and corrected me, and I got it wrong.
Did they really? I missed it completely, which is what is hilarious. It might as well be 2017 for me. But
got it wrong. I got it wrong. It'll be one of those funny things about the show. Oh, my cat's meowing at me. Meow.
All right. I now have fixed the last week for Fada.
Come on, Cappy. You are a talker. Come here. Oh, maybe it's the heater. Maybe there's electrical interference from the heater.
Oh, maybe. So at a couple times during the show, it sounded kind of like you had a fan on.
The heater, yeah.
So just a couple times is when I was talking about the bees, because at first I thought you were playing bee noises. But it was like a zzz in the background a little bit.
Yeah, some weird interference. Hi, Teddy Belly. You're my hedgehog. I want to dress my cat up like a hedgehog.
Is this Stella? Is she home and healthy?
Stella is home and happy. This is Cappy, though.
Oh, okay. Why do you want to dress her like a hedgehog?
Oh, come here. She's my little tabby. And she curls up like a little ball, and her belly is so soft.
Oh, she lets you touch her belly. I love that.
She loves having her belly rubbed, and you can't see it, but it's this beautiful, soft, tender belly.
Yeah. I want to put my face in it.
I do. She's like, put me down. I hate being picked up. Put me down. Meow, 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 meow. I love her little belly, and so I want to make her into a hedgehog.
Yeah.
She'll be all spiky on the outside, and then I can pet her belly.
If there's one thing I've learned from the internet, it's that cats really love wearing costumes. So
yeah. She'll hate that.
They hate it. Their back legs like go limp. When you put a costume on it, they're like, nope, can't walk now.
Yeah. So my cat Stella, she is home and she's fine, and we are very happy that she's healthy. Lily danger averted. Everyone in the world, I want you to know, lilies are toxic to cats.
Good to know.
But why did she cats don't eat a lot of plants?
Oh, she does. She plays with everything. She's an exploratory cat. She just gets in everything, plays with things, and lilies are great. They hang down and got all these leaves and beautiful flower parts that fun to bat.
Mm-hmm.
And then, get pollen on them. And the
So
cats,
how did you find all this out?
how did I find out
Like,
what?
how did you find out that she had eaten them? How did you find out she was sick? How did you find out that was why she was sick?
Because I saw her do it. I saw her playing with it, and I saw a leaf or a petal fall, and she pounced on it and crunched it up.
Uh-huh.
And
Oh God.
yeah, and so
Bisphenol S. Oh gosh.
I didn't think about it for a while. Didn't really. I was like, oh, she ate the lily. Okay, whatever. And then I was like, I wonder. There's something itching the back of my brain here. And so I looked online, and it's like, don't get lilies near your cats. They're going to kill your cats. Your cat's going to die in 18 hours if you don't get her to the veterinarian. And I was like, oh my God. And so, I kind of put her on watch. I was like, and then I was like, oh, she's looking a little fluffier than usual. And she's starting to not, like, there's something a little off about her. And then Marshall came home from work and was like, yeah, let's take her to the vet. And I was like, okay, let's do that. And the vets, we got her into the emergency vet, and the vet was like, yeah, we're just gonna keep her for 2 days and give her IV fluids to pump her system out and just basically help her kidneys filter all of that toxin out. So basically the toxin, whatever it is, that's in the lily plant, they don't even know how it works or how it acts on cats to be so toxic, but it within about 24 to 72 hours causes kidney failure.
That's what a lot of the stuff that dogs aren't supposed to eat does to them too, is complete kidney failure. Oh man.
Yeah, total kidney failure. They don't even know. They can't even test for it they can't test for a presence of the toxin in the blood. They don't know how it works. Like, it's just like this, oh, your cat got pollen on her. Oh, lily pollen. Well, we're going to have to do 48 hours worth of fluids.
Gosh.
Like, oh my God.
Oh man. Well, good thing you looked it up and you took her in when you did.
I know. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. And it was only one little leaf. Like if she'd eaten the whole plant when you weren't around.
Which she could have.
Yeah.
Easily. Yeah. So we got lucky. We kept looking around the house. We're like, what else do we have in the house that's toxic to cats? And I was like, oh, look at all these poinsettias we've got. Poinsettias are bad for cats too. Not totally toxic, but not great for cats. I'm like, look at that. We're poisoning our cats over there. We're poisoning our cats over there.
Did you just put them all high up or something?
No, they went in the compost.
Oh,
come on.
Get rid of them.
I'm
Death
not gonna.
plants.
It's less for me to water anyway. I do not have a green thumb, so it's better. It's better for those plants to go in the compost.
Nice. Well, I'm glad she's better. My goodness.
I'm glad too. Yes. And my lilies that I love, that smell so yummy and are so pretty, I'm never buying them ever again.
Yeah.
Never
Are your
again.
kitties, they're indoor kitties, right?
They're indoor kitties.
So you could put some in your backyard.
I could do that, yes. But then they wouldn't be wafting that odor through the house. The beautiful lily odor that I love.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I can
just
survive.
synthesize a compound. Put it in an oil infuser. Pretend you have lilies.
Yeah. Fake it. Fake it till you make it. Yeah. There you go. But our whole family is very happy that Stella is okay.
Yay.
Oh, and then cat behavior thing. Okay. That I find so fascinating. Bringing Stella back from the veterinarian, Cappy, who's her sister, hissed at her and wouldn't get near her for a day.
She's like, who are you?
Yeah, and this is something that is I forget what it's called. It's aggressive non-recognition is what it's called. Aggressive non-recognition. And cats, even though they see each other, they recognize each other based on odor. And so taking one cat away to go to the vet where they're being handled by lots of different people, they're being, they're in this weird sterilizer smelling environment. There's medications that they're being given. Everything's different. And then you bring them back and they don't smell like themselves. And part of it also, cats groom each other to put their scent on other cats. And so that they smell themselves on the other cat. And so these odd smells, and compounded with not smelling herself on Stella, Cappy was like, "Who are you? What have you done with my sister?"
I wonder if she smelled like stress or illness also.
There's possibly that too. Yeah.
Because those stress hormones or smelling like you're sick would definitely be something that most animals would say, stay away. I don't want your illness, and I don't want to be near a stressed out animal because that means there's something dangerous nearby. Yeah. Well, and, you know, most cats are solitary animals, most wild cats. So you could see how any non-familiar cat in their space, or, you know, maybe Cappy got used to being alone. It's like, I don't want to share.
I know. She's like, I really like this house on my own. I get more attention. All the snuggles and cuddles are mine. So is all the food. The litter box is cleaner. Yeah, very possible. Very possible. Where'd Justin go?
I'm still here.
Oh, no, you're not. Where'd you go?
Yeah. Get the camera off.
Oh.
Naked.
Oh, okay. Getting naked off camera. Got it.
And that's our cue. Good night, everybody.
Oh, dear. Oh, yeah, Blair. Fake ivory.
It's a terrible idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think so too, but I want you to talk about it.
Well, it's just, the problem is not that we have to kill elephants to get ivory. The problem is that people want ivory. If you saw someone now wearing Siberian tiger pelt on their coat jacket,
Oh my
you'd
gosh,
probably
where did
think,
they get it? I've got to get me some of that.
I would say, in most of America, you would say, ew, that's not good. Because most people know that tigers are endangered and they don't want part of it, right?
Or you'd say, I hope that's fake fur.
Right. But for a long time, if you look at old movies from the 30s and 40s, people are wearing like jaguar and leopard skin items that are real. And that was part of fashion. And now it's not. It's a faux pas. And that is one of the reasons that these animals are starting to make a comeback in their numbers. The issue is not, oh, it's too bad ivory comes from elephants, let's find another source for ivory. The problem is that people are okay with wearing part of an elephant. So even if it's false ivory, you're still promoting the idea that ivory is something you should want. And that's a band-aid. It's not fixing the problem. It's like this whole thing about climate change, and let's just change the weather by throwing crap in the oceans and the atmosphere. That's you're treating the symptom, not the disease. And that's exactly what this is. You're treating the symptom of people wanting ivory, and you don't want them to have to kill elephants to give them ivory. The issue is that people want to wear endangered animal products, and they want to own endangered animal products. Rhino horn, tiger whiskers, sun bear bile, this stuff, pangolin scales, it's sought after because it's part of an animal. It's not that they want those things and it just happens to be sourced from an animal. So that's the problem, and that's what we need to fight, and we need to change the narrative of. I think we can do it.
And it's not something anybody will ever in any way actually need.
Right. Absolutely.
Unlike rhino horn, which is necessary for what ails you.
Boo.
No, I know. It's all boo. It's all stupid.
Well, because rhino horn is the molecules in the rhino horn is exactly the same as your fingernails. So all you're doing when you drink rhino horn tea is you're drinking fingernail tea. It's exactly the same.
I'm just going to keep my fingernail clippings and use them to brew up some tea once a month.
Yeah.
It is as likely of solving your erectile dysfunction, your fingernails are, as rhino horn. There is no difference.
But my fingernails aren't shaped like a horn. Does that have something to do with it?
File them down, shape them up. It's the same.
No, we like, it's so amazing on so many levels how so many of the world's problems, of these horrible things that are being done, like, have no possible reason for them going on. It's just lack of education, stupidity.
Well, it's like, one could argue that at one time there was, because before modern medicine, people were looking for solutions to problems from nature. And to people's credit, we have found solutions to medical problems through nature. Plants, stuff like that. But now that we know better, there is no excuse.
Right. And I mean, I get like why we have global warming, because we're getting energy from the emission of these carbons. I get how we got into that predicament. I don't understand how you can think it's really cool to have an elephant carved from ivory on your mantle, knowing that you had to kill an actual elephant to get this trinket. Like, that is so ridiculous to me. Yeah. Brewing fingernail tea, stop it. Just stop it. That's ridiculous. However, I have, as you pointed out recently, I have blinders too. I don't want to believe that eating hamburgers is really bad for the environment. And I'll probably continue for quite some time before I actually accept what I already know.
But are you going to eat hamburgers every day?
Going to?
Not every day.
Do you eat burgers every day? I mean, can you reduce your meat intake so that you have red meat only 2 times a week, 3 times a week?
So I already kind of do. I eat a fair amount. Like, I don't. Like,
you don't have to give up your burgers. Just cut back.
Cut back.
You don't eat red meat.
Like, okay. Like, I already kind of, like, it's not cutting back, but I already don't prepare any meat at home. Like, any meat that I'm going to eat is going to be served having bought it from somebody else who prepared it. Like, I just don't, like, I'm not going to fillet a thing. I mean, I guess, like, technically I eat tuna sandwiches. Like, so, like, I'll open a can full of BPAs that has tuna in it.
Yeah.
But I won't like go to the butcher shop and ask for that cut or that steak or buy the thing that's already in the wrapper and then grill it up. That's just, I don't do that.
Right.
So I'm probably not like a prime rib offender in this whole thing.
Do you eat a lot of cheese?
Yes, I do. If cheese and sour cream, if you're going to tell me cheese and sour cream are ruining the environment, let it go.
Sorry.
I don't want to live in a world without cheese and sour cream. I'm sorry. I'm not really, I am. That
red
the world
meat
had to end because
terrible. I love yogurt.
Cheese and sour cream.
I love cheese. I love cheese. But you know what? I try to eat a little less of it.
I don't. I try to fit more dairy. I look for more ways to fit dairy into my diet every day. Like, I wonder if, like, instead of...
Here's the thing, though. We're talking about food. Yeah. And food is something you have to take care of 3 times a day, every day. But you don't need a brooch made out of ivory.
You don't.
You don't need any brooches at all. Actually, so to say that even that these conversations are equivalent, I think is a false equivalency. The whole wildlife trade thing is based on this desire for tokens made out of animals. And therein is the problem. If people start to recognize that the animals themselves are valuable and that the animals themselves provide people an important service, then that's my job. My entire career is based on the idea that the more people understand animals and the environment and their place in it all, the more they will value those things in their natural state.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's definitely better than it used to be with the wildlife trade. We're getting better. We're having the conversation. We're moving in the right direction. Let's not lose traction by creating fake versions of things so our job becomes harder to figure out what's real.
By the way, Blair, you've got to spend a little bit more time with my 4-year-old.
Okay.
We went to the zoo a while back, and we went to this. They were having like the, what do you call them? The docents or whatever they are. The people,
yeah,
like retired people who.
Yeah.
And they had like the turtle out and the owl out, and they had a couple of snakes and stuff. And they had this. It was cold, so they had taken it all indoors. Usually they're like sort of around apart. And we had gotten there as the thing opened, and we're members, so we just went right in. We were like the first people in. So we go and we realize, oh, they're showing all the animals in one place. Great. So we went over there, and it was just her, this 4.5-year-old. And she went from like animal to animal to animal, learning all about them and why they're important, what they do, and their feeding habits and all this. And we were the only ones there for like half an hour, I think. And then like the floodgates open to the main entrance, and in pour all these people, and all these kids are coming in, and she didn't want to leave. She took over. Like,
oh, good.
Kids were like looking at animals. She was retelling what she had just learned about them.
That's great.
All the other, and it's like and the docents like adored her, of course, because she's like, oh my God, she listened to us. She's like remembered all this stuff. And she's being like the presenter for all these animals. She's like really, and we have to always walk by. There's this one part of the zoo where there's a window. And on certain days, you can see when animals are getting their checkups, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they have them in there. So that's like her main thing at the zoo is she wants to go and look in the window and see if they're doing a checkup, because then she's like mesmerized by that. She wants to be an animal doctor at the zoo and tell people all about the animals.
Nice. Well, that's 3 different jobs. She'll have to pick.
Yeah. No.
Maybe 2 of the 3.
No, she's gonna do all 3. She can handle it. She's 4 now, and she's like doing 2 of them.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty adorable.
It was pretty fun. And
you know, I hear
too is they had this big, like, I guess puzzle or something, and it had all these rainforest animals on it. And one of the docent people was like, "Oh, so do you know what this animal is?" And she was identifying animals, like some of them that aren't at the zoo, and I don't know how she identified them, where she's picking up this extra knowledge.
Books, TV?
It's probably in some cartoon thing she watches or somewhere. Like, she knew the sloth, she knew and then the docent asked, well, how many monkeys are in here? And she counted 3, and the docent pointed out a 4th, and my daughter goes, but it doesn't have a tail. She's 4. And then, what were we watching? She likes Goosebumps. She likes scary stuff. Like, she loves everything that's Halloweeny or spooky or scary stuff. And there's one episode that she was watching the other day that had somebody put in a spider, a tarantula, that was supposed to scare somebody, and they called it a bug. And she goes, "It's not a bug. It's not an insect. That's a different thing. It's and she didn't have the word. And she goes, it's a spider. I'm like, arachnid? Yeah, it's an arachnid. That's what it is. It's not an insect.
Yeah, arachnid.
And I'm like, I know I encourage this sort of knowledge in my children, but the fact that she's got it on lockdown, has been surprising to me. She's definitely focused on an animal-oriented knowledge.
Does the Sac Zoo have zoo camp?
No, I don't know.
Look into it. See if you can find a zoo camp near you.
Like an overnight thing? Is that
No, it's a day camp during the summer.
Oh. I don't know. Maybe it does.
Zoo camp is great. Zoo camp is science and animals, appropriate for the grade level of the kids. At whatever zoo you're at, zoo camp is always so
All right.
good.
I'll go look up zoo camp.
It's great.
That'll be good.
Yeah. Or, you could drive all the way to San Francisco every day.
Yeah, yeah.
Drop
Totally.
off at San Francisco Zoo Camp.
I just might. I just might.
Oh, man.
You'll get this call like, Blair, there's a little girl at the front door. She's just got your name safety pinned to her shirt, and she's lost. Can you?
Oh, my gosh. Well, she can hang out at my desk when you're late picking her up. So, because you have to drive an hour and a half to come get her.
It's going to be a couple. Just put her on the Amtrak back. She's fine.
Oh, okay. Okay.
She's very resourceful.
Yeah. Ben, I don't work in zoo camp. I work with the teenagers in the summer. So.
Which is like a zoo within a zoo, no doubt.
Yeah, it is. Oh boy.
All right. It's past your bedtime.
Oh yeah, it is.
My bedtime.
Yeah.
Say goodnight, Blair.
Good night, Blair. Say goodnight, Justin.
Good night, Justin.
Good night,
Kiki.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for watching for the show. Thanks for letting us do another show. Hopefully the audio will be fixed for next week. We'll work on that. But in the meantime, we'll catch you on the social media side, and we hope to see you here again next week. Have a wonderful night, everyone. Good science to you all.